Leading with Wholeness. What Netflix can teach us and what it can't. Welcome. I'm Janet Harvey, and today I want to talk about something that all leaders face. How do we lead when freedom, fear, and feedback are all piling up at us? Netflix is a great example of this particular tension, and it brings up an even more important question. How do we lead with wholeness? Netflix was famous for giving its employees a lot of freedom. No set vacation days, few formal reviews, and lots of independence. It did work for a while, and as the company grew, cracks started to show. In my book, From Tension to Transformation, I say this: what worked before may not serve what comes next. We must pause continuously to examine if our old story is still helping us to thrive. Netflix found itself needing to do exactly that. Freedom sounds amazing, right? And without shared purpose and clear agreements, freedom can cause confusion and even conflict sometimes. I worked with a startup where everyone was, quote, free to do what they thought was best, unquote. It sounds good, and no one talked to each other. So the product didn't ship on time, consistently, behind schedule as much as 6 months. We help them to learn to come together as a team, creating clear goals collectively and individually, teaming agreements for how to optimize their behavior in working with each other, and the space for continuous feedback to pay attention to what's working and what could get better. Within 1 quarter, they hit their deadlines and felt more energized. Netflix also practiced something they call radical candor. Feedback was encouraged at all levels of the organization. Only here's the catch. Some people were afraid of being too honest, while others feared being fired if they weren't seen as top performers. It became competitive rather than developmental, something to strengthen that would get them moving forward in the face of change. Let me give you another example. One of our clients, a mid-sized tech company, had adopted a no-blame feedback model. In theory, it meant everyone could speak up. In practice, people stayed quiet. You probably can guess. Many of them had past feedback experiences that had been used as a weapon rather than a tool for everybody to continuously improve. After introducing peer-to-peer coaching and some emotional literacy, these practices they adopted caused the tone, the attitude, the atmosphere to shift. One team leader said, "For the first time, I feel like feedback helps us grow instead of tearing us down." In Tension to Transformation, I talk about how fear shows up when people don't feel safe. When leaders create the environment where expressing compassion, meaning to be with the passion of another with an understanding, listening stance, feedback becomes fuel for growth. I remember a leader who used to avoid giving tough feedback until we coached her to ask, what support would help you do this thing you're doing even a little better? That question was acknowledging the competence and also the expectation to keep stretching. Her whole team began to thrive as she adopted even that one simple question. As Netflix got bigger, their culture had to shift. That's not a failure. That's growth. And I say, in Tension to Transformation, a leader's job is not to protect the past. It's to anticipate and always be in service to the future. I worked with a large retail company going through restructuring. Their old culture had valued hierarchy, and the new generation wanted more inclusion and purpose. We helped them to co-create new values through a program called Conversation Made Better. And in 90 days, they watched engagement jump by 30%. So, how can you lead with generative wholeness? Here's the first tip. Anchor freedom with purpose. Make sure people know the why behind their work, particularly as environments change so quickly, always coming back to the why, to the decisions you're making. 2, give feedback as a gift. Use it to build up, not break down. Ask, what are you learning? And what do you want next to move forward? And 3, adapt intentionally. Culture is alive. If you pause regularly to ask, what's wanted now? You're inviting engagement and participation in producing what's new that will better serve the future you envision. Another example for you. A nonprofit director told me her team felt burnt out and disconnected. We introduced a monthly pause and reflect session. People were able to share honestly, celebrate their progress, and give each other ideas for where to head next. Within 3 months, the director told me, we're getting more done and with more joy. Boy, couldn't we all use a bit of that right now? Netflix isn't right or wrong. It's just one mirror for leaders everywhere. Freedom, feedback, fear, and performance will always coexist. The question is, how will you relate to them? Will you let them push you into reaction? Or will you pause, choose, and create from your whole self? That's generative wholeness. And that's where transformation begins. Intention to transformation, I write, the moment we stop pretending and start choosing, we become the leader others have been waiting for. If you're ready to bring this mindset to your team, explore our Conversation Made Better program. It gives you the tools to create psychological safety and sustain it by speaking with intention and building a culture where people thrive. Please visit go.inviteChange.com/courses/CMB, Conversation Made Better, to get started. Let's stop managing problems and let's start generating wholeness. Thank you for listening. And before we wrap up, let me offer a few questions for you to take with you. You might even journal on these later or ask them in your next team meeting. Where in your organization is freedom creating confusion instead of clarity? Where does fear live quietly? Maybe in silence, hesitation, or avoidance behaviors. Where is your team ready to give feedback and needs a little safer space to do it? Meaning rewarding their vulnerability and acknowledging you hear it. Yes, I hear what you're raising. And followed with a question that says, and what do you see would be different? That would give this more ease, more glide path. Intention to transformation. In closing, I say, tension is not a problem to fix. It is the signal to listen more deeply to the seed of innovation. Using these signals as invitations, not warnings, is part of the formula to restore thriving.